The lawyer read the will in a voice that suggested he'd done this 1,000 times before. Professional, detached, like he was reading a grocery list instead of dividing up my grandmother's life. To each of my grandchildren, Marcus, Julia, Trevor, Stephanie, and Casey, I leave the sum of $500,000. My siblings gasped. $500,000 each. That was more than any of us had expected. Grandma Rose had been comfortable, but not wealthy, or so we'd thought. The lawyer continued. However, there is a condition. The room went quiet. Each grandchild must visit my grave once per week, every week for 1 full year following my death. Visits must be documented with a photo sent to my attorney's office. At the end of 1 year, those who have fulfilled this requirement will receive their inheritance. Those who have not will receive nothing, and their share will be redistributed to those who completed the task. Silence. Then my brother Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. She's manipulating us from beyond the grave. Classic Grandma Rose. It's ridiculous, my sister Julia said. Every single week? For a year? That's 52 visits. Who has time for that? I'm Casey Mitchell. I'm 42 years old. I was my grandmother's youngest grandchild, and according to my family, her least successful. While my siblings had corporate careers and big houses, I was a librarian living in a modest apartment. While they traveled and networked, I read books and lived quietly. And while they complained about Grandma Rose's will, I was the only one thinking about why she'd included that clause, because I was the only one who'd actually known her. This is the story of how I spent 52 weeks visiting my grandmother's grave while my siblings mocked me, dismissed me, and eventually tried to sabotage me, and how at the end of that year, I inherited everything while they got nothing. But to understand why that condition mattered, you need to understand my relationship with Grandma Rose. She raised 5 grandchildren after our parents died in a car accident when I was 8. Marcus was 15, Julia was 13, Trevor was 11, Stephanie was 9, and I was the baby at 8 years old. Grandma Rose took us all in without hesitation. She was 62 years old, a retired school teacher living on a pension, and suddenly she was raising 5 traumatized children. She never complained, never made us feel like burdens, just loved us and did her best. As we grew up, my siblings became successful. Marcus went into finance, Julia became a lawyer, Trevor started a tech company, Stephanie married a doctor. They all had money, status, impressive lives. I became a librarian. I lived simply. I never married. I never made much money. My siblings looked down on me, and sometimes I think Grandma worried I'd been left behind. But I visited her every week, even when she was healthy. Sunday afternoons at her small house, drinking tea, talking about books and life and everything that mattered. My siblings were too busy. They'd visit on holidays, bring expensive gifts, stay for an hour, and leave. I brought time. I brought presents. I brought myself. When Grandma Rose got sick 2 years ago, I was the one who took her to doctor's appointments, who sat with her during chemotherapy, who held her hand when she was scared. My siblings sent flowers and cards and money for her care, but they didn't come. They're busy, Grandma would say, making excuses for them. They have important jobs. I'm here, I'd tell her. That's what matters. She'd squeeze my hand. Yes, you are. When she died 3 months ago, my siblings flew in for the funeral. They cried, they gave speeches about how much she meant to them, they posted on social media about their beloved grandmother and got hundreds of sympathetic comments. Then they flew home and went back to their busy lives. I was the one who sorted through her belongings, who donated her clothes, who sat in her empty house and grieved, alone. So when the lawyer read that will, when he explained the condition about visiting her grave, I understood. This wasn't manipulation. This was Grandma Rose's final lesson, a test to see who actually cared, who would show up, who would remember. The day after the will reading, Marcus called a family meeting at his expensive downtown condo. "We need to discuss this ridiculous grave visiting requirement," he said, pouring himself scotch like he was in a business meeting. It's clearly emotional manipulation, Julia agreed, her lawyer voice crisp and certain. We could contest it, argue that she wasn't of sound mind. She was perfectly sound, I said quietly. She knew exactly what she was doing. Oh, come on, Casey, Stephanie said. Making us visit a grave every week for a year? That's controlling behavior. That's not love. It's a test to see who actually cared about her enough to show up. We cared about her, Trevor protested. We just have busy lives. We can't drop everything to visit a cemetery every week. Then don't, I said. Accept that you're choosing not to, but don't pretend you can't. Easy for you to say, Marcus sneered. You have nothing but time. The rest of us have careers, families, responsibilities. I have a job too, I said. I just prioritize differently. You're going to do it, aren't you? Julia said, studying me. You're actually going to visit every single week? Yes. Why? To prove you're better than us? No, because I loved her, and because showing up for people you love shouldn't end when they die. They looked at me like I was crazy, but they also looked uncertain, because $500,000 was a lot of money to walk away from. I'll try, Stephanie said finally. I can probably make it work, most weeks. Most weeks isn't every week, I pointed out. The will says every week for 1 year. That's insane, Marcus said. What if we're sick? What if we're traveling? Then you miss a week and you lose the inheritance. Those are the rules. You sound like you're enjoying this, Julia said coldly. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm just being realistic. Grandma set a condition. Either we meet it or we don't. That's all. Over the next few weeks, my siblings tried. They really did. They visited the grave, they took photos, they sent them to the lawyer's office. But by week 4, excuses started. I have a business trip this week. I can't make it to the cemetery. My daughter has a soccer tournament out of state. We're going on vacation. We planned this months ago. I'm sick. I can't leave the house. By week 8, only Stephanie and I were still going regularly. Trevor had given up entirely. $500,000 isn't worth this much effort, he'd said. Marcus and Julia were sporadic at best. By week 12, it was just me. Every Sunday afternoon, I drove to Oakwood Cemetery, parked in the same spot, walked to Grandma Rose's grave, and sat with her. Sometimes I brought flowers, sometimes I brought books and read aloud to her like I used to when she was sick. Sometimes I just sat quietly and talked about my week. I took a photo every time, sent it to the lawyer's office, documented my presence. My siblings thought I was obsessed. You're wasting your time, Marcus told me at Thanksgiving. She's dead, Casey. She doesn't know if you're there or not. I know. That's the point. I'm not going for her benefit. I'm going for mine. That's ridiculous. Is it? How many times did you visit her when she was alive and could actually appreciate it? He didn't answer. By week 20, my siblings had completely given up. They'd convinced themselves the will was invalid, that no judge would uphold such a strange condition, that they'd contest it when the year was up. You're the only one still going, Julia said at Christmas. Doesn't that tell you how unreasonable this is? No, I said. It tells me I was the only one who actually loved her enough to show up. That's not fair, Stephanie protested. We loved her too. Then why aren't you visiting? Because we have lives, because we're busy, because visiting a grave every week for a year is an insane requirement. It's 1 hour a week, I said. Grandma raised you for 10 years. She gave you everything, and you can't give her 1 hour a week to remember her? Don't you dare guilt trip us, Marcus said angrily. You always did this, always acted like you were the better grandchild because you had more time. Some of us had actual responsibilities. Some of us made time for what mattered, I shot back. There's a difference. They stopped inviting me to family gatherings after that, said I was being self-righteous, said I was using Grandma's death to make them feel bad, said I was only visiting the grave to get the money. But I kept going, week after week, through winter snow and spring rain, through summer heat and autumn cold, every Sunday afternoon, no matter what. Week 32, my car broke down. I took a bus to the cemetery. walked the last mile, still made my visit. Week 41, I had the flu, fever of 102. I went anyway, masked and shivering, left flowers, took my photo, went home and collapsed. Week 48, there was a massive snowstorm. The roads were barely passable. I went anyway, drove 15 miles an hour, almost got stuck twice, made it to the grave, cleared snow off the headstone, sat with her for an hour. My siblings thought I was insane. Maybe I was, but every week, sitting at that grave, I felt closer to Grandma Rose than I had since she died. I felt like I was honoring her, remembering her, keeping her memory alive in a way that mattered. And sometimes, when the cemetery was quiet and the world felt still, I swear I could feel her there with me, proud, grateful, at peace. Week 52 arrived on a cold Sunday in March, exactly 1 year after Grandma Rose's death. I drove to the cemetery like I had 51 times before, parked in my usual spot, walked to her grave. But this time, the lawyer was waiting for me. Mr. Harrison stood by Grandma's headstone, holding a briefcase and wearing a slight smile. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, "congratulations. You're the only grandchild who completed the full year of visits." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we settle the estate. According to the terms of the will, your siblings forfeited their inheritances. All funds will be distributed to you." "How much?" "The total estate after taxes and fees is approximately $6.5 million. I sat down hard on a nearby bench. $6.5 million? But the will said $500,000 each. That was the amount each grandchild would have received if all 5 of you had completed the requirement. But your grandmother's actual estate was much larger. She was quite frugal and an excellent investor. She wanted to see which of her grandchildren valued her memory over convenience. She tested us. She did, and you were the only one who passed." He handed me a letter. "She left this for whoever completed the year of visits. I was instructed to give it to you only after the 52nd visit was confirmed." I opened the envelope with shaking hands. "My dearest Casey, if you're reading this, you visited my grave every week for a year. I knew you would. You were always the one who showed up. Your siblings are good people, but they're busy people. They love success and status and being important. There's nothing wrong with that. But somewhere along the way, they forgot that being present matters more than being impressive. You never forgot. You visited me when I was alive, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. You held my hand during chemotherapy. You sorted my pills. You read to me when I was too tired to hold a book. You showed up. And you kept showing up, even after I died, even when there was nothing to gain from it, even when your siblings mocked you for wasting your time. That's why you get everything, not because you're better than them, but because you understand something they don't, that love is about presence, that the greatest gift we can give someone is our time and attention, that showing up consistently and faithfully is how we honor the people who matter to us. Use this money wisely, live the life you've always deserved, and know that I loved you best, not because you were perfect, but because you were present. With all my love, Grandma Rose. P.S. Your siblings are about to be very angry with you. Let them be. They had the same opportunity you did. They chose not to take it. Their regret is not your responsibility." I cried sitting on that bench, not because of the money, though that was overwhelming, but because Grandma Rose had seen me, had valued me, had understood that I wasn't less successful than my siblings, I just measured success differently. The lawyer cleared his throat gently. "Your siblings have been notified. They're requesting a meeting to discuss the distribution." "There's nothing to discuss. The will is clear. They're planning to contest it." "Let them try. I fulfilled every requirement. I have 52 photos proving it." The meeting happened a week later. My siblings arrived with lawyers. They were furious. "This is insane," Marcus shouted. "You got $6.5 million because you visited a cemetery? That's not a fair distribution." "It's exactly what Grandma specified in her will," I said calmly. "She was manipulating you," Julia said. "She knew you had nothing else to do, so you'd be the only one with time to waste on this ridiculous requirement." "I have a job. I have a life. I made time because it mattered to me." We had obligations, Stephanie protested. We couldn't just drop everything every single week. Neither could I, but I did it anyway. This isn't fair, Trevor said. We loved her too. Then why didn't you visit her? I asked simply. She gave you everything, raised you, loved you, sacrificed for you, and you couldn't give her 1 hour a week for 1 year? Not because you couldn't, because you chose not to. We're contesting this will, Marcus said. We're suing for our rightful shares. Go ahead, I said, but you'll lose. The will is airtight. I have documentation of every single visit. You have documentation of what? A few weeks of trying before you gave up? You failed the test. That's not my fault. They did contest it. They hired expensive lawyers. They argued that the will was unreasonable, that Grandma Rose was mentally unfit when she wrote it, that I had manipulated her. But they lost. Every single argument. The judge reviewed the evidence, read Grandma's letter, looked at my 52 documented visits versus my siblings' handful of attempts, and ruled in my favor. Mrs. Hartwell was clearly of sound mind when she created this will, the judge said. She set a simple, clear condition. Miss Mitchell met it. The others did not. The will stands. My siblings haven't spoken to me since. They blame me for their loss, as if I forced them to skip visits, as if I held them back from going to the cemetery. But I didn't take anything from them. They gave it away themselves. They chose their busy schedules over 1 hour a week. They chose convenience over commitment. They chose to value their time more than their grandmother's memory. And they lost everything because of it. I'm 43 now. I still visit Grandma Rose's grave every Sunday. Not because I have to, because I want to. Because that quiet hour in the cemetery has become sacred to me. A time to remember, to reflect, to stay connected to the woman who loved me when I felt unlovable, who valued me when I felt worthless, who saw me when everyone else looked past me. I used some of the inheritance to pay off my student loans. I bought a small house near the library where I work. I donated a significant amount to literacy programs in Grandma Rose's name. I set up college funds for my siblings' children because they're innocent in all this. The rest I saved and invested, following Grandma's example, living simply, spending wisely, being grateful. My siblings tried to reconcile once, about a year after the will was settled. They said they were sorry, that they'd been wrong, that they wanted to be family again. But their apologies came with conditions, with expectations that I'd share the inheritance, with suggestions that family takes care of family, and Grandma would want us to split it. I declined. Not out of spite, but out of clarity, because they weren't sorry they'd skipped the visits, they were sorry they'd lost the money. There's a difference. Real family takes care of each other while people are alive, not just when there's money to be gained. Real love shows up consistently, not just when it's convenient. Real relationships are built on presence, not inheritance. Grandma Rose taught me that, with her life, and with her death. She left me $6.5 million, but more than that, she left me a lesson that no amount of money could buy, that the greatest gift we can give someone is our consistent, faithful presence, that showing up matters more than showing off, that love is measured in hours spent, not dollars earned. My siblings never learned that lesson. They were too busy being successful to be present, too focused on their impressive lives to make time for the woman who raised them. And in the end, it cost them everything. I'm Casey Mitchell. My grandmother left an inheritance to anyone who would visit her grave every week for a year. My siblings called it manipulation, said it was unreasonable, gave up after a few weeks. I visited her 52 times, through snow and rain and sickness and storms. I showed up because I loved her, because she deserved to be remembered, because presence matters. And when the year was over, I inherited $6.5 million, while my siblings got nothing. They're angry. They think it's unfair. They believe they deserved equal shares just because they're family. But Grandma Rose taught us one final lesson, that love isn't about DNA or obligation. It's about showing up, consistently, faithfully, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. My siblings had the same opportunity I did. They chose not to take it, and that choice cost them everything. If you have someone you love who's still alive, visit them, call them, show up. Don't wait until they're gone and it's too late. Don't assume you'll have tomorrow. And if someone you loved has died, honor them, remember them, show up at their grave or in your heart or however feels right. Don't let busy schedules and modern life erase the people who shaped you. Grandma Rose is gone, but every Sunday I sit at her grave and I'm present with her memory. I'm faithful to her legacy. I show up, not for an inheritance, not for approval, not for anything except love. And that, more than any amount of money, is what she really left me. The understanding that being present is the greatest gift we can give. My siblings lost $6.5 million because they couldn't give 1 hour a week. I gained everything because I understood that love is measured in presence, not presence. And sitting at my grandmother's grave every Sunday, I'm richer than I ever dreamed possible.